Hey fight fans, welcome back to Casuals. I'm Alec, alongside me is co-host Carlos, and in this video, our very first boxing preview, Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders. Let's get right into it. So, we have Canelo, 55 wins, 37 knockouts, 1 loss, 2 draws, fighting Billy Joe Saunders, 30 wins, 14 knockouts, no losses. Carlos, what do you think about that?
It's a big fight, impressive records from both of the fighters, but there's a bit of a aura, if you will, with Canelo, right? In the past few fights, ever since the 2 Gennady fights, a lot of criticism has been shined on Canelo as far as his quality of opponents. It happens every fight, man. It happened with the Rocky Fielding fight, Kovalev, Callum, and the most recent fight, which is the big uproar that I saw a lot with even with Mexican fans. Just a lot of people feeling that these fights are like in some form cherry picked, or they're not of the best caliber available fights for the weight class that Canelo's fighting. And people are just wondering, the consensus that I keep hearing from like real Mexican fans, like especially where we live in, where I live in actually, I get a lot of that talk is how do Mexican fans feel about Canelo? And a lot of it is positive, right? A lot of people support him. We support him. I support him because not only is he a great boxer, but he's a Mexican champion, right? But there's like this subset group that just don't hold him in the same light as your Julio Cesar Chavez, your Oscar de la Hoyas. They feel, I don't know if it's just recency bias, but they just feel that he's not facing the same caliber of opponents and he's just cherry picking his fights. Or even the most craziest thing that I've heard is that his fights are fixed and that, fighters are taking dives or not performing to their best abilities against Canelo. And just ridiculous takes that I keep hearing. And even though I myself am a casual boxing fan, I don't follow it as much as I do, MMA and especially in the UFC. But you're like what I would say is a boxing expert. You follow the sport just as much as MMA. So my question to you would be, compared to Canelo's other bouts, as far as challenge, difficulty of opponent, where does this rank? And how big of a challenge does Canelo face in this fight?
Okay, you brought some interesting points. Wow, a lot of cringe fans out there. I don't know what they're smoking on. To answer your question, just real quick, 1 through 10, where would I rate this as far as toughest opponents? I give it a solid 7.5. 7.5 is fair to say. The last near closest opponent that gave Canelo any problem at all, Triple G. I'm talking September 16th, 2017. Triple G, the first match, which we won't get into it that much, but that was a Triple G that backed Canelo up in the ring. Canelo was literally on the ropes trying to fend it off. I don't know what he was doing. And then you would hear Eddie Reynoso, his trainer, after rounds in, like, what are you doing? Get off the ropes. You have the youth. You have the speed. You're letting this guy bully you and push you around, which Gennady was in the first fight, landing more effective shots, showing a little more volume and workload compared to Canelo, who was just kind of just waiting, see what Gennady's going to throw and try to counter. And Canelo was fighting back. He wasn't just laying against the ropes and letting Gennady do his thing. He was throwing back as well. A few interesting things I took away from the fight was we've never seen Canelo get pushed. He's always been the one, been the heavy aggressor, pushing him, the other opponent back into the corner and landing the heavier blows. But against Gennady, the first fight, we saw Canelo getting pushed back and something we were just not used to seeing. So that was the first fight. Great performance. Adelaide Bird can go fuck herself. She is a straight clown. I don't know how she's still judging UFC fights. She needs to get out of Vegas. Clownery. I don't like her. What, we can't say
to
that?
Interrupt you on that part with Adelaide Bird, you just mentioned the UFC, right?
Yes.
How is she, like you said, how is she still judged? How is she still working in Las Vegas for the Nevada Athletic State Commission?
Payroll. Mafia. Easy.
You had one fight in the UFC prelims this past weekend where it was Kai Kamaka versus TJ Brown. Very close fight, very exciting fight, back and forth. From what I saw and the consensus amongst MMA journalists, websites, your sure dogs, your bloody elbows, etc., was that even though it was a close fight, Kai Kamaka took it 29-28. Basically, even though that it wasn't scored like that, TJ Brown actually won 29-28. Adelaide Bird gave Kai Kamaka a 30-27. Now, that's who I believe should have won. But that score, when that was read out by the announcer, I was like, what? 30-27? Are you kidding me? And then again, another fight on the main card, Strickland versus Jotko. Strickland dominated that fight. Just a masterclass performance on walking somebody down and just punching their face in. And Adelaide Bird scored that fight as well. And even though it was complete domination from start to finish, the first round being probably the best performance by Strickland, where he almost took Jotko out, Adelaide scored that round for Jotko, and it was a 29-28 when the other judges scored it 30-27. So it was like, wow. What are you doing? I'm just glad that the top two fights, the main card and the co-main, didn't go to decision, because I don't know if she was judging those fights, but regardless, hate to get off track here on UFC and we're talking about boxing, but Adelaide and just judging in general, it's ridiculous. But anyways, go ahead.
Wow. Someone needs to go check her bank statements on those specific dates, because she got an extra 100 G's. There's no doubt about it. You can argue with me all you want. No doubt about it. She took the money. Anyways, moving on.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right? So moving on, I'm going to say this right now. The first fight, Gennady won that fight. Bullshit decision draw. Sue me, I don't care. We're going to move on from that. It's another video. We're going on to September 15th next year, 2018. They rematch. Gennady Golovkin 2. Canelo took some notes. He found out Gennady Golovkin was a little slower. He does have the speed advantage. He does have the youth. He goes to the body shots a lot more earlier in the rounds, and Gennady has a great core. That guy is just Terminator, 35, 36 years old at the time. He's just ripped. He takes those body shots, but they go a long way in later rounds when you're starting to feel a little more tired, huffing and puffing. You're starting to clinch more, So Canelo took notes. He listened to his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, great trainer. He landed heavier shots, cleaner shots. He slipped out more when he's supposed to. Canelo does this great thing where if he knows he's going to get caught, he kind of rolls with the punches. So he'll turn his neck. If let's say he throws a straight or he throws a hook and he knows he shouldn't have, he's going to get hit. His head will already be moving. So when Gennady lands his uppercuts from hell or his hooks, yeah, they'll land, but won't have that much impact because his head's already going with the punch. It's something crazy that you don't see that many fighters doing. They might say, oh yeah, I roll with the punches, this and no, not the way Canelo does it. It's just insane. So Triple G2, Canelo wins that fight. He gets the decision. Rightfully so. I'm a Gennady Golovkin fanboy, but he lost that night. Canelo was a better man that night, and he gets the decision win. So let's move on to December 18th, later that year, 2018. He faces Rocky Fielding, the taller fighter. He's a British boxer. Not that much information about him, his previous fights, unless you follow the UK DAZN scene over there with Matchroom Boxing. He has a WBA super middleweight belt on the line, 168 pounds. So he moves up in weight. And just from, I believe it's in Madison Square Garden, just from the standoffs alone, you can see huge size difference. Rocky Fielding being a taller guy, a little more bigger. Canelo's just kind of standing there like, it's weird to see. And the crowd's like, oh, Rocky Fielding's taller. He has the reach. He's just going to out jab Canelo the whole time. Yeah, big fucking clowns. They don't know what they're talking about. Canelo won in 3 rounds, TKO, just rips to the body. And it was fun. The first knockdown, he got Rocky Fielding. Rocky takes a knee from a body shot. He's like, just looking at his trainer like, that kind of hurts. So Canelo makes quick work and shuts those casuals up. Daniel Jacobs, or Danny Jacobs, is the 160-pound champ. He always wanted a fight with Canelo. Thankfully, with Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn, which is one of the best boxing promoters out there, says, okay, you're my fighter. Canelo's my fighter. Let's just make this happen. We're both signed to the same boxing promotion. Let's do this. So Canelo takes that fight. A lot of people are speculating, oh, Daniel Jacobs, he's more technical. He's more skilled. He's the taller guy. He doesn't lose at 160. So Canelo wins the belt, 168, super middleweight. He has to go back down to 160 to face Daniel Jacobs for WBC, WBA, and IBF title. So that fight took place on May 4th, 2019. It was a little bit of a, I want to say snooze fest, a chess match. It was more of a chess match, not that much action. Canelo did display his great head movement. I believe if you look at Instagram or Twitter of DAZN, they always show this one clip of Danny Jacobs just popping out jabs and straights, and Canelo just like left, right, moving, ducking side to side. And it's crazy to see because you don't see Danny Jacobs miss that much. And a lot of people were, like I said before, were saying Danny Jacobs has his fight. He's more technical. Canelo's not that technical as Daniel Jacobs. He's just more about power, one punch power, this and that. He proved those fighters wrong. Carlos, what'd you think of the Daniel Jacobs fight, if you remember?
Yeah, that's the big thing I remember was just the huge defensive display by Canelo, all the head movement. Very technical fight. Like you said, it wasn't as exciting as the previous two Gennady fights, but yeah, it was another side of another, piece of Canelo's game that he added, that he worked on for that fight, that we saw and we're like, wow, he's not just a brawler, power puncher. He can be technical, be defensive as well. And like, I get a little factoid, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is, as far as Danny Jacobs, before the Canelo and Gennady fights, Danny Jacobs was the one who gave Gennady the biggest trouble before those fights too. And probably his closest fight before that.
Yeah,
and
he did.
So
you're right.
Yeah,
that just goes to show that you're absolutely right. Danny Jacobs was probably the only middleweight that gave Gennady Golovkin some serious problems before Canelo, and people were starting to say around that time, can Gennady hang with the top tier 160 middleweight challengers? It was something fun to watch. But moving on with Canelo, he gets the decision win over Danny Jacobs. So this is the crazy thing that I find, that Canelo haters, or not those fans you're talking about earlier that kind of just hate seeing Canelo win or his success. This is why I don't get. So he goes up to 168, beats the taller, stronger Rocky Fielding, the Brit. He goes back down to 160, faces the technical, fast, speedy hands, Danny Jacobs. This guy goes 2 weight classes up. So 160, 168 super middleweight. Then he goes up one more light heavyweight title for 175 against Sergey Kovalev. He jumps 2 weight classes to take on Sergey Kovalev for the WBO light heavyweight title. What? Like, what the hell? No one saw that fight coming at all. Sergey, if you don't know history about Sergey Kovalev, he was mainly known, or when I started really paying attention to him, was when he fought Andre Ward twice. The Andre Ward first fight, which became kind of an upset as well. Well, not upset, but a big drama show. It came to a draw. Everyone thought Kovalev won that first fight because he actually knocked down Andre Ward. Andre Ward has rarely been knocked down ever. I think that was his first knockdown he took in his career. It was great back and forth. Andre Ward, who is one of the GOATs, he has unblemished record. Huge respect to Andre Ward. He fights him, Kovalev again, the second match, and he just takes him out, takes him to school, straight up boxing lesson, and beats Kovalev. Kovalev gets another win along the line. He gets his belt back, so Canelo takes on Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev, 175, tall guy like Rocky Fielding, a lot more power. Canelo just doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care if you're taller, you're bigger, you're stronger. He's going to go in there, go in the inside, find a way to try to wear you out with his crazy, vicious body shots. And I don't know if you remember watching that fight. It took a little while for Canelo to get going, but it's funny because in that fight, it's perfect timing. One of the DAZN commentators literally says, I'm watching Canelo. He's still waiting to get into, what do you say, 4th or 5th gear? I'm still waiting for him to get in 2nd gear. He lands a crazy right hand. Kovalev is doing, oh, wait a minute, I just got hit. And then boom, another right hand, and Kovalev's down. And he's just knocked out. Everyone in the crowd goes insane. And he, once again, shuts up the casuals, proves, hey, I could take light heavyweights on too. So, yeah, I don't understand why fans hate. See, no boxer does. And there's boxers in the past who have gradually gone up in weight, came back down, but no one goes up a weight class, back down to 160, jumps up 2 weight classes to take the WBO light heavyweight belt. That's just unheard of. That's greatness. I've never seen, at least my lifetime, never seen that happen. Have you? Have you seen any champion doing that?
No. And I'm wondering if that criticism comes from, I guess, because these names are just not huge superstar names that Canelo's taking on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people point to question that, like, oh, he's not fighting, like your Earl Spence's or your who else is out there, or like another Gennady fight or
Charlo.
But another thing, like you were saying, the with Rocky Fielding, with Kovalev, and then eventually Callum and all these other opponents, and a lot of these guys are like so much bigger than Canelo.
They really are. Canelo, I mean, he's what, 5'9"? His reach is only 70.5 inches, I think. He's facing 6'2", 6'3" guys with 76 plus reach advantage. So he's 6 inches of reach more than Canelo.
Yeah, that's insane. And not only jump in weight classes like that, but to do it in, what was that, like
a 1.5 year to 2 year span. It's crazy.
That's insane.
So, like I was saying earlier before, I don't see Jamal Charlo doing that. I don't see Earl Spence doing these types of fights where they go up in weight classes, come back down. Only Canelo. So it just proves the show, like I said once again, it's just greatness. This guy is a great champion. So after the November 2nd fight, 2019, he was supposed to fight Billy Joe Saunders in May that year, or March actually, in 2020. But as we all know, the pandemic hit, unfortunately. It stopped a lot of boxing, and it was just bad timing. And I would rather see Billy Joe Saunders in that March fight because he seemed really prepared. I'm not saying this fight he's going up against now, he's not prepared. He looks in great shape, but it just sucks the pandemic stopped that. Moving on, he doesn't fight till later, December 19th, 2020. He faced Callum Smith. Kind of same Rocky Fielding situation. 6'3", tall Brit, 78-inch reach, so it's about 8.5 inches of reach against Canelo. It goes to full rounds decision. I forget which round it happened, but he was kind of backing up, pushing Callum Smith, who's the bigger, stronger opponent, supposedly. He was kind of bullying him against corners and landing shots. So you see Callum Smith just trying to guard as best as possible. He hits Callum Smith and bullies him into corners so bad. His right bicep kind of messed up. He kind of batters it around too much, and people would say, oh, he was injured, Callum Smith, but I forget which round that happened in. But just proves the show again. Greatness. He's backing up the taller, stronger, heavier fighter, and there's no answer for him. These UK fighters legit have no pop. They have no power. They don't want no smoke with Canelo. They just get backed up into a corner, and Canelo does what Canelo does. He just throws a high volume of combos, shows great head movement, slick defense, great combinations, and gets the decision win. So next, 2 months later, February 27th, he fights this guy who's working on an Applebee's, Avni Yildirim, straight up tomato can. Just kidding. Avni Yildirim, respect to what he's done. The Anthony the Real fight was pretty top notch. I didn't mind seeing that, but Yildirim, as you can see, at best a B- fighter compared to Canelo. I would even say C. It only took 3 rounds and it was over. That guy was literally a standing punching bag, just taking shot after shot and just kind of looking at Canelo like, oh shit, what did I get myself into? Takes more shots and more shots, and his trainer's like, yeah, you're fucking cheese. It's over. We're calling it, which is great by the trainer. Great fucking call. I don't think any of us wanted to see that fight continue. So he makes that he kind of have a choice. It was a mandatory defense. So now.
So explain that though. So that's another thing that, you know, a lot of casual fans don't understand, and why I think not just Canelo, but a lot of boxers in general get criticisms like your Tyson Furies or Wilders or Anthony Joshua's is the way boxing is compared to, like, you know, MMA and the UFC, which is why I like MMA and the UFC a lot better, is you have all these promotions, you have all these belts that you have to manage, and you have mandatories that sometimes they just call a mandatory on this whatever's top available opponent, and the fighter has to take it. If not, then the belt is stripped.
Exactly what you're saying. He's basically trying to unify the whole division. He wants all the belts. He wants the WBC, the WBA, WBO, Ring Magazine, and the IBF belt. If he does not take that mandatory, because I don't think he wanted to fight Yildirim, come on now. But if he did, you're right. If he didn't take that mandatory defense, those belts get stripped. It's kind of unfair. A lot of people say, oh, he cherry picked this fight. No, he did not. He's just trying to defend his belt, do a quick, easy work, slight 20 mil payday, something slight, you know, Canelo, slight numbers. And yeah, he gets the easy win. He didn't take damage, and he faces on the real fight we all want to see, Billy Joe Saunders. So for those people saying, oh, these fighters cherry pick, no, they don't. They're trying to do something fucking amazing and great, trying to unify the belts, get everything. So in order to keep the belts, he has to face a fucking tomato can every now and then. What do you want him to do? He's doing greatness. Shut the fuck up. He's doing greatness.
Well, let me interject here with the tomato can. I would call them tomato cans because they're not nobodies. They're somebody in their respective region.
You know what Yildirim is?
No fucking idea who that guy is.
You know who he fought last?
But according to the
Oh,
rankings,
okay.
he was the top available guy, though, right?
I'm kidding. You're right. I shouldn't be that rude. No disrespect. These aren't tomato cans. These are top ranked fighters, you would say. But I'm trying to explain best as to casuals. These aren't okay. These are C plus the B level fighters. That's as best as I can explain it, honestly. These aren't that A plus high elite level boxers. These are C minus B level boxers. So he did some light work. 20 mil payday.
And these divisions also, they're not as stacked, because we cover a lot of MMA, so I'll interject with MMA is, when you're talking about multiple divisions, I mean, you're talking about stacked talent, like from number 1 to all the way to 15. Sometimes Dana makes champ fights with number 7 contenders, number 8 contenders, because that division is so stacked that any one of them can take the champ.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of the difference between boxing, especially in that weight class. You don't have as many killers, or at least to the same level as Canelo. Canelo's just far and above better than all these guys.
A league on his own, honestly.
That someone who doesn't know that, who doesn't know all the workings of boxing, the politics, they're just like, oh, well, they're fixed fights, which is ridiculous to say in boxing, period. Because I mean, yeah, has it happened before? Sure. But is that commonplace? Like, it's kind of ridiculous to say that when these guys sign up to fight in the ring, to say it's fixed at all. The guy fighting Canelo definitely doesn't feel it's fixed. That guy's trying to win, but sometimes you just face someone who's far and above their ability, and it's insane. To go on another thing, right, is a lot of the fans who criticize Canelo like to compare him, like I said, to Julio Cesar Chavez. Julio, he goes on his 89-0 streak before he loses.
Yep.
And they think, oh my God, that's amazing. Canelo's not even close to his level and not close to his legendary status. But it's like the same criticisms that you give Canelo. If you were to analyze and criticize Chavez's record, you for sure are going to find a lot of sandbagging.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what boxing is. It's not necessarily the fighters cherry picking or wanting easy fights. It's just, that's how boxing is. It's not always the next best opponent is the next fight. It's, a few fights in between, and then you have your prize fight, you have your super fight made.
Yeah, it's well explained. Absolutely. Not everyone could be undefeated records or only one loss. In between those big fights, those big elite fights, you have a couple of easy opponents. That's exactly how it is. That's how boxing is. Especially nowadays, a lot of fighters are trying to build themselves up off padded records. They're trying to fight these guys who are 2-10, 5-18, just to get those easy dubs in. Then maybe face a guy that's 7-2 or that's 12-3. It's just boxing. It's politics. It is what it is. We're just gonna move on from it. Okay, so May 8th, we're finally here. AT&T Stadium, Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders for all the belts, all the smoke. Everyone's had a great camp. Nothing is rushed. Saturday night. Are you ready for this fight?
I'm ready. I'm ready for this fight. In fact, I was earlier today, I was scared that this is going to be called off and we're going to see
oh no,
Canelo versus John Ryder. So I'm going to go into this. It's a small little controversy, a little drama show, if you will, before the fight. Is there seems to be a dispute as far as the ring size for this fight. It looks like it's not clear if it was agreed to when the contract was signed. It seems Canelo's team requested an 18-foot ring at first, and that was initially denied outright, obviously, by Billy Joe's team. And then they went 20 foot, which is the max standard for that promotion and that weight class. Now, for whatever reason, Billy Joe, or maybe it's just his team or his dad specifically, comes out and says, no, we're fighting in a 22-foot ring or in a 24. The first one was 24-foot ring. And that's what Billy Joe's been training in the whole camp. And that's what we signed for. It's a 24-foot ring. It's like that, or we're flying back home. And everyone's like, UK fans are going crazy. I'm seeing it all over Twitter. Oh my God, the fight's called off. They're flying back to the UK. And then people are slowly coming to, and they're like, well, why is Billy Joe requesting, a 22-footer or a 24-foot ring when, the standard in the UK, in Britain, it's, 20 foot max. And the standard here in the States like I said, for those weight classes, when it's heavyweight, it is bigger. But when it's that weight class, the standard is from 16 foot to 20 foot. So there's like this back and forth. You know, there's an altercation at the hotel between Canelo and his team and Billy Joe's team, where they're kind of like calling out Canelo, saying that he's doing tricks and this and that. And then you have Tyson Fury going on Instagram talking shit about, hey, you know, we finally bring our British fighter out here and you guys are playing tricks. Play fair, Texas. Play fair, Texas. And it's just like, what's going on here? Is this legit concerns or is this mind games?
Could be a little bit of both. What this reminded me of was reminded me of Tyson Fury versus Klitschko. If you remember that bout, there was a ring controversy as well with too much padding. There's too much padding, and Fury's team was like, "Hey, there's too much padding on this underneath the ring. If you don't fix this, we're flying out." And their Klitschko team was like, "Okay." So they initially got it done. A fight's too big to cancel. This fight obviously is way too big to cancel. I think it's mind games. I think we all know Billy Joe's not gonna walk out of this crazy career-defining fight moment. He's not gonna certainly let his dad call off the fight. I certainly wouldn't let my dad just say, "Hey, yeah, no, fight's off. We're out. My son's not fighting this ring. Fuck y'all later." I don't think that was the point. It just builds up more drama because what did it do? It got a lot of people talking. You go over Twitter, go on Instagram. That's all they're talking about.
Top trending right now is Canelo versus Saunders because of that.
It gets his job done. A lot more cows like, well, what's this all about? Something about a ring debacle, ring gate. What the fuck? 20 inches. I think it's all mind games and tricks. And like you said, I did see, you did show me that video. You put me on that video of the hotel lobby where Canelo passes. And then Billy Joe seems like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And something about the ring bullshit. Canelo's just looking back. I was like, "Oh, you're being pussy or something." Something
so
stupid. And I guarantee you, it's just mind games. It's kind of like build up drama to the face-offs, to the weigh-in. And I guarantee you it's going to be like Gennady 2 when there's not that much drama and they're gonna look at each other and they're gonna like push and, "Oh, hold me back, you know."
That's usually how it is.
That is usually how it is. Again, I think this is mind games. This is trick just to get Canelo's blood flowing, or sorry, get his blood boiling up, so in the fight maybe he has a little more animosity towards Billy Joe and just wants to take his head off. I don't think it's gonna affect Canelo too much. Eddie Hearn, you see Tyson Fury bashing Eddie Hearn and Canelo because Eddie Hearn, as you know, boxing promoter, he's from the UK. So Tyson's like, "How are you not backing up your fellow countrymen? You big dosser, you're sucking off Canelo. He's Mexican, blah, 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 this and that." Something stupid. But got the casuals talking. It's trending. What more can you want in a mega boxing match, you know? That's what we want to see.
True. Yeah.
So we talked about Canelo. May 8th, we're all excited. Let's talk about Billy Joe Saunders. Again, 30 wins, 14 knockouts, no losses. He does have the WBO belt. He's putting that on the line against all Canelo's belts. There's a lot of talk about here. I mean, let's just, I'm gonna first go over his opponents, seeing what he's done recently in the past, my favorite fights from Billy Joe Saunders, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of categories, talking about the power, the speed, the volume, the counter punching. We'll get into that and see who we have winning the fight ultimately. So I'll start it off. A couple fights that stand out for Billy Joe Saunders that I remember watching was back in September 16th, 2017. He fights Willie Monroe Jr. for the WBO middleweight title. He gets unanimous decision win. He showed great footwork. He always, that's why he wants a bigger ring. He always loves walking around his opponents, popping in, popping out, and kind of waiting for his opponents to come in, dodge out the last second, making his, you know, kind of like a bull matador, making a fool out of his opponents. It's fun boxing. You're not going to see that much knockout or one punch power from Billy Joe. He's a technical boxer, but he does it in a fun way. Honestly, it's kind of like an art to watch. People love watching this guy box. Later that year, December 6, 2017, he fights David Lemieux to defend his belt. Now, that fight was one of the better fights for Billy Joe's record. Now, David Lemieux, kind of similar attributes to Canelo. Not that tall, around 5'9", a little bit stocky. He does have one punch power. He's laid out a lot of boxers, And he kind of just, again, does what Billy Joe does. He dances around him, makes a fool out of him. There's one of the famous moves he's known for is he kind of just taunts David Lemieux, and he's throwing wild hooks and straights and overhands. There's one of them he just kind of ducks over. He kind of just, it's like, where to go. It's hilarious. It got the fans cheering for Billy Joe, becoming a fan. He gets the unanimous decision win in that one. Just outboxes David Lemieux. Okay, so this is where Billy Joe Saunders takes his WBO super middleweight belt. May 18th, 2019, he faces a Shafat Isufi. I may have botched that. Apologize if I do, but he does get the WBO belt, the super middleweight belt he needs. I'm gonna be honest with you, watching that fight, not a whole lot going on. He just kind of out tags his opponent. Shafat Isufi isn't really, he has an okay record, but he's not really well known, not even the European circuit. So there's not much really go off that fight. Just Billy Joe won that fight. Now, a big fight that did mean a lot was his US debut. He's never fought in the States. It was that ridiculous clown show YouTube boxing match of Logan Paul versus KSI. Now, Billy Joe actually did this fight as the co-main event. He's an actual licensed professional boxer, real belt on the line. He takes this as a co-main, not the main event, the co-main. This was a good business standpoint for Billy Joe. Hey, you're in LA. It's a sold out show. You're getting all the fans. The celebrities are out there. Everyone's watching you. It's a great way to get your name out. I see why he took it. He faces Marcelo Coceras. Not too much about this opponent. He's from Argentina. The opening rounds are kind of fill out rounds. They go back and forth. Again, Billy Joe really not known for power punching shots. It takes to round 11. And he kind of Billy Joe lands these crazy uppercuts and wobbles Coceras, and kind of just jumps on him after that. He gets 2 more knockdowns in that fight before the ref calls it off. So he has a great debut. I give it a B+. Again, it's rare you see Billy Joe Saunders get a knockdown or a finish in any fight besides a unanimous decision. So he did a great job in US debut. A lot more people know his name. Again, that's when COVID happened. He didn't get to fight Canelo. He waited all the way to December 4th when he fought Martin Murray. If you don't know Martin Murray, he's a great seasoned vet. He's fought against great names. Gennady Golovkin. He did lose to Gennady Golovkin, but he was a great boxer back in the mid 2010s, 2015 era. He's beaten the likes of Gabe Rosado. So a seasoned vet. A lot of people thought Billy Joe Saunders, seeing that he has a youth advantage, he has the speed, and of course, building up to that fight, Martin Murray, who's a fellow British boxer, saying, oh, this is for a countryman fight. Billy Joe has the edge. He's going to take him out or retire him. He doesn't retire him. It's a great back and forth fight. Billy Joe does what he does best, uses his legs, boxes around the ring. He gets the unanimous decision win. And after that boxing match, Billy Joe said, that wasn't a great performance by me. I did want the knockout win. I should have displayed more. Let me tell you something. You can't have those second thoughts or guesses in a Canelo fight. You have to be 150. And he's been on plenty of interviews saying, yeah, if you look at my previous wins compared to Canelo's, Martin Murray, Marcelo Coceras, not that big names, not the best of performances besides the Coceras knockdown in round 11. He's been on record saying, yeah, I wouldn't go for me either, because compared to Canelo's, greatness, all knockdowns, all knockouts, Billy Joe just has to be really, I can't stress enough, he has to be 110% ready. He seems in focus. He seems in great shape leading up towards the fight.
I was going to say, so essentially he has to fight a perfect fight to have a chance against Canelo. Yeah. And, I mean, you talking the way, Billy's style of, being more technical, basically getting on his bicycle, running around the ring, popping shots, being very smart and not really throwing caution to the wind. So if it does go to decision, that's where it gets a little hairy, right? Because you have a lot of controversy there as well in the past, with judges probably favoring the US fighter, and if they were fighting in the UK, judges favoring the UK fighter. Happened time and time again. So I mean, it would have to be, if for Billy Joe to take this fight, it would have to be a dominant performance. He would have to school Canelo and possibly get knockdowns, possibly, which I doubt would happen, would be some form of finish, which, I mean, exactly. Canelo's just so durable. He's so in shape, extremely in shape. Mexican meat.
Yeah,
But
something
he's-
like that. I don't know.
Something like that. If you know what I'm talking about. It's a crazy task, but it's a big challenge, not just for Billy Joe Saunders, but for Canelo as well, is to fight somebody that crafty, that fast, and someone who could, possibly beat you on points. But I mean, like I said, from a casual's perspective, and even from, the criticizers' perspective, the doubters, it's like Canelo wins, it'll be a decision. And then, there's going to be a lot of doubt as to where it was legitimate, or whether, the big thing that I'm hearing is when people think when the fight was going to get called off by Billy Joe's dad, was like, oh man, like all the judges, all that work they wasted by filling their scorecards in before the fight. So that's like the aura, that's the feeling that people get when they watch a Canelo fight, is just, the judges are always going to side him. Oh, and that was another thing, not just the ring controversy, but the judge controversy was that it was supposed to be, I believe, one Mexican judge, one British judge, and then a neutral judge. But they ended up doing 3 neutral judges. So Billy Joe's team was, throwing up a stink against that. There's countless other things. There's also the criticism that Canelo gets with the double wrapping on his hands that I've seen multiple times. I saw this particular video, I guess, on the second Gennady fight, where it looks like his wraps are a lot thicker than Gennady's. But when you analyze those videos, and if you were to analyze Gennady's film of getting his hands wrapped and Canelo's at the same time in real time, you would notice that it's generally the same. But the way they show it promoting up to the fight, it's Gennady first, then it's Canelo. They're just at different times wrapping the fighter's hands. So a lot of people think, oh, this is proof. This is proof. Canelo's double wrapping. He's got the advantage there.
Theories, yeah.
A lot of conspiracy theory level, bullshit. And it's so tiring to watch. That's another reason that just puts me off to boxing, is because even if someone were to win, if it wasn't an emphatic fashion, if it's a close decision, there's just so much doubt marred in that decision that it's not clear at all. And then you have to set up a rematch. And I mean, if it's a good fight, sure, that's an easy rematch to sell, which is what happened with the Gennady. I mean, it was a draw. Obviously, that's the difference, but that's the stuff coming into the fight that I don't necessarily like. But
I do remember that there's always a controversy with Canelo. I do remember that locker room vid cam. Abel Sanchez is literally hovering over like, hey, that was over the gauze. That's double stacking, man. And there's this and that. Are like, what are you talking about? I do remember the controversy. There's always something. Again, we don't know the contract negotiations with Billy Joe's team, with Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn, but you're absolutely right. There was something with the judges. One judge from the UK, one judge from Mexico, an American judge or a neutral judge. We don't have that. We have 3 neutral judges. I don't know. That is something big. I don't know the specifics of the negotiations. And now you have this ring debate, this ring gate. Everyone keeps crying about, oh, it's supposed to be 22. We want 24. Okay, we'll sell it at 20. Something always happens, gets it talking like, oh, here Canelo's getting this advantage again. He's in Texas. He has a lot of Mexican fans, this and that. It's something silly. Boxing is politics. It's kind of funny to watch. A little bit of a clown show, honestly. We all knew at the end of the day, these guys are going to fight. They're not going to miss these big fucking paydays, especially not Billy Joe. Canelo has M's in the bank account. He has M's. He has money. But moving forward, we talked a little bit about Canelo's history. We talked a little bit about Billy Joe, how he got the WBO belt. He made 2 solid defenses on it. Let's talk about a little bit of the categories, and we'll just kind of go back and forth saying who has the advantage, who doesn't have the advantage. So the first one is power. Canelo, would you agree?
for sure.
Canelo has
Got the
those.
KOs on the record. Canelo has more KOs than Billy Joe has wins.
Exactly. 37 knockouts. Billy Joe has 30 wins, 14 knockouts. And those first couple of knockouts when his early career. So kind of tough to say. You look at the power of Canelo. Amir Khan's the first thing that comes into my mind. A vicious right hand that just has him asleep on the canvas. It was scary to watch. I mean, boxing fan, we do love seeing knockouts. We of course care about the safety of the other opponent. These guys go in the ring, put it all on the line for our entertainment. But the power, obviously in Canelo's favor. So we'll move down to speed. I have to admit that Gennady 2 fight with the combinations to the body won me over in the speed category.
Really? Okay.
Would you say Billy Joe for speed?
I mean, it's tough for me, right? Because I haven't seen as many. The only Billy Joe fight I've seen was the KSI Logan Paul card. Which I'm sure I'll brush up on my Billy Joe history when I do the edits. Make sure to check out the edits when I'm building up these two fighters. But I mean, yeah, I mean, if you believe Canelo has the speed advantage, I'll go with your opinion. I'll defer to you, obviously, but
yeah, you've seen Canelo's recent fight. So going back to the speed, you've seen him against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Crazy combos. The Gennady Golovkin 2 fight, he has crazy speed. Danny Jacobs, I mean, he'll box around you, throw out quick 1-2 jabs, but then he'll come inside, do a quick little flurry, and then come back out and box around you. But I think speed goes in Canelo's favor. Canelo shows great volume punches. Billy Joe shows little flurries. What would you say for the volume category?
I would say, based on how you described Billy Joe, I would probably side with Billy Joe, because one thing I have noticed from Canelo is, although, yeah, he does bank in body shots, is that he kind of, you know, something I witnessed with the Gennady fights is he was kind of going for huge, significant strikes, just one punches, or sometimes maybe 2-punch combos, but it wasn't necessarily a lot of volume. It was just big power shots, one after the other. The same with the Kovalev fight or with the Rocky Fielding. It was just big one-shot body shots, one-shot power shots, hooks, you know, what have you. So I'd probably give that edge to Billy Joe as far as volume.
Either or for volume, it's a great choice. Now we'll do counter punching next. Both boxers can counter punch. Canelo, great counter punching display with Daniel Jacobs and Sergey Kovalev. Billy Joe is known for his counter punching though. He kind of waits for his other opponents to come in first before he makes a fool out of you. The David Lemieux fight's a great example. Chris Eubank Jr., Martin Murray. He does wait on his opponents, but he does extraordinary damage and he makes his opponents pay with his counter punches. For counters, I'll go with Billy Joe on this one. Moving on, we have combos, which we can say is the same as volume. Carlos said Billy Joe, I say Canelo. Both boxers show great combinations. It could be either or. As far as accuracy goes, well, Canelo's a great volume puncher. He's going to be throwing a lot. He's on target with most of his jabs and power punches. Billy Joe's accuracy too. He is a technical fighter, points boxer. So for accuracy, it could be either or, a little bit of a tie. Moving on from the accuracy, we'll go into footwork. Billy Joe is known for his footwork. That's why he wanted this 24-foot ring. Hell, give him the whole Dallas Cowboys stadium. He's going to be dancing around you all night. That's his game plan. That's how he boxes. Canelo has great footwork as well. He's never usually on the ropes. He knows how to get out of situations, bob and weave as well. Both these fighters have solid footwork. The next category is chin. We've seen the crazy shots Gennady Golovkin has landed on Canelo. That man is built different. Something is in the Mexican meat. You need to go ahead and ban Canelo from the Vegas Athletic Okay.
Jesus Christ. You need to check the Mexican cows. You need to test the cows. Not Canelo, test the cows.
Something's in that Mexican meat. But as I've said before, Canelo has a great chin. He can take any punch from anybody, and I honestly doubt Billy Joe. Respect to him and his work ethic, but I don't think he has that one punch power or even a flurry of power. I don't think he has a flurry enough to even wobble Canelo. He may catch Canelo a couple, but there's this crazy punch with Gennady Golovkin where he just flat out bombs on Canelo, and Canelo just takes it and just looks at him and goes, he just says, it didn't hurt. Like, bull fucking shit, that didn't hurt. I don't think Billy Joe's going to do that against Canelo. Billy Joe, he's been known to, he's an evasive fighter. He's not going to be hit that much. Can he really take a clean punch from Canelo and not be stunned or wobbled? I don't know. His chin really hasn't been shown to be, put on for display. I haven't seen a big test for Billy Joe because often doesn't get hit that much. But against a Canelo power right hand, I don't think so. I think Canelo has the chin in this category. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with the opponents Canelo's faced, with the shots he's taken, you could argue that, there's like a degrading chin. Maybe he's taking too many shots in those fights he's been in. But as far as we've seen with Canelo, I mean, he's got a granite chin. Like you said with Billy Joe, I mean, his whole style is not to get hit. I'm pretty sure he's never been hurt, really, truly hurt. So as long as he plays his game and he doesn't have to worry about that. But as far as Canelo. You know, he's more accurate than all the other fighters he's faced. So he's going to catch you once or twice. Just all depends on how Billy Joe takes that shot. You know, a big factor in that, like I've always said in the past videos, is how much of a shape you're in. It looks like these two guys are in just phenomenal shape. So
yeah, couldn't agree with you more. The next category we have here is fight IQ. Both great boxers, smart. Now, can this be an interesting, fun chess match back and forth? Perhaps. Are these gentlemen gonna stand in the middle of the ring, look each other in the eyes, say, hey, fuck you, let's go for it, and just start slugging it out? I don't think so. They both have great fight IQ. They're both smart. They know what's on the line here. All these belts. Canelo, he's going to take some chances, and seeing, I think he knows himself, he has the power advantage. I believe he has the speed, the bigger shots. He may be throwing for more one-punch knockouts, or at least punches that would daze or hurt Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe, again, it's going to kind of be like that David Lemieux fight where he's going to boil up Canelo's blood, try to get him mad. Just Billy Joe's hard to read. He's not those fighters that kind of simple 1-2 punches or jab, where he gets inside and then throws a right straight down the middle. He's going to be awkward. It's going to be hard to figure him out at first. He does a lot of great combinations where he goes to body, goes back upstairs, and goes back downstairs with a right hook to the gut. He has great fight IQ. So is Canelo. This can go tit for tat. I think they're both even for fight IQ. The last category is cardio. Billy Joe Saunders usually gets the decision wins in his previous fights. He does have a great gas tank. Canelo doesn't. I don't see him having a problem as well. He usually gets the fight done before 12th round, so I don't think his cardio is going to be in trouble at all. These both fighters have great cardio. What do you think about the cardio, Carlos?
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think both of the fighters' cardio is great. I don't think that's going to really factor into this fight with Canelo's cardio tested, you know, with the Gennady fights. And I believe also with the Callum Smith fight, that was a unanimous decision.
12 rounds, yeah.
I mean, he looked great. It didn't really look like he fell off too much. Maybe in the first fight against Gennady, you know, that 12th round that they were just trying to take each other out.
Jeez.
And, you know, he just gave it all he could. But I think since then, Canelo's actually improved his cardio. He's a lot smarter and he's a lot more efficient with his energy. Like you said with Billy Joel, that's his bread and butter, is taking it to the distance. So don't believe it's going to be a factor in this fight.
All right. So we've gone over both fighters' histories, who they fought, who they beat. We went over the categories, what each fighter has, an advantage, disadvantage. All right. So one question, Carlos. Who do you have win this fight Saturday night?
Oh, I mean, it's Canelo. It's got to be. That's who I'm rooting for. But as far as not only who I'm biased against or biased for, you know, because he's a Mexican champion. As a Mexican, always got to support him no matter what. But I am kind of fearful as to what Billy Joe can bring to the table. You know, if he gets really crafty, will Canelo get frustrated? Will he, you know, swing wildly? Do the mind games during this week take an effect? You know, what happens there? Regardless, though, I think Canelo is world class. His defensive boxing is insane. It's top tier. His power is top tier. And he can, as long as he doesn't get into an extreme head hunting game, I think he can play Billy Joe's play to his tactics and beat him at his own game. So I'm thinking Canelo can seal this victory in a unanimous decision.
It's a good take. Going over this back and forth, like Carlos said earlier, I'm a big boxing fan. You know, I try to watch as much as I can, especially on DAZN. They show a lot of great fighters. I've done this fight at least 5 times in my head, seen how it play out. Gotta say, if I'm gonna give this a percentage chance, I'm pretty sure 68% Canelo takes this unanimous decision. 32% chance Billy Joe takes it. Just seeing Canelo's previous fights, what he's shown, displayed greatness time and time again. You can be the bigger fighter, you can be the taller fighter, the stronger fighter, this and that. You can be the technical fighter. This fight reminds me of the Danny Jacobs fight, honestly. This is going to be a chess match. It's going to be a little bit awkward the first 3 rounds, a little longer filling out process. Billy Joe fights awkward. Canelo, he's going to take some time adjusting to Billy Joe. And you're right, playing out his own game, trying to fight technical as well. Maybe not trying to get those one-shot knockout hits. But Billy Joe does show, I think out of all the 168 super middleweight champs, Billy Joe is probably the biggest threat. I take him over Callum Smith. Callum Smith isn't that strong. He's pretty simple to figure out. Billy Joe's a problem. You can study his film and see what he's fought in the past and how he fights, but he's been on interview time and time again. You haven't seen nothing yet. You're going to see a full display of Billy Joe Saunders May 8th. It's kind of hard to believe that when you don't have that many knockouts, but just going over Canelo, like I said, I think he takes this unanimous decision win. Now, let me tell you this. If Caleb Plant is in the stands, he's in Texas, go ahead and bring your belt. And when Canelo wins, go ahead and get in the ring and give the belt to Canelo, because no one wants to see Caleb Plant versus Canelo for the IBF belt. No one wants to see that. I'm sorry. If you're in the stands, just go ahead and give the belt to Canelo, and he's the champion at 168 in all divisions. I'm sorry, but it's over. I wish this was the last belt for Canelo to get. You know, it's like Mortal Kombat. You know, you face the final boss. You're facing what, Shao Kahn or Goro. Caleb Plant is like fucking Reptile or Johnny Cage. It's no fucking threat. It's stupid. I hate that this.
I would say he's mostly like Striker, someone a lot less.
Striker
gives
or
some respect
mocap
to Johnny Cage. Yeah,
yeah, I do like Johnny Cage. You're right, but it's just I wish this was for the final belt of the 168-pound division, super middleweight. Caleb Plant. Obviously, if Canelo wins, he's gonna fight Caleb Plant. He's gonna show another Yerim fight where he knocks him out probably in 3 or 4 rounds. Honestly, Caleb Plant, respect what he's done. He's an American fighter. He is a champ, big name in Kentucky, but it's no threat to Canelo.
It's not the same.
It's not. Yeah. Now, if Billy Joe wins this fight, it could be, and he's been on record saying, "Oh, this is the biggest upset in boxing." That's fucking cap. The biggest upset in boxing in recent years was the Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua fight. You know, big chunky Mexican boy defeats, you know, big Adonis, freak god of nature. You remember that fight? Andy Ruiz got the crazy knockout. That was the big, I forget what those odds are. I wish I had them up on display, but it was something crazy. If Billy Joe, you know, a lot of people sleep on Billy Joe, but he's not that. It wouldn't be the biggest upset. If it happens, fucking crazy. It is an upset. It's not the biggest upset, but we'll see what happens. I can't wait for this boxing match. It's something that should have happened a year ago. It's happening this week. No ring gate, no glove controversy, no judge controversy. Just please, nothing else happen. Let's all enjoy the fight. It's gonna be a good one. What more can I say, you know?
Yeah, same here. I can't wait. I just want it to play out. I want to see the fight. It's definitely something I'm going to be tuning into compared to this week's UFC. An unfortunate main event situation there. But nonetheless, I mean, I think regardless of what was going to happen this week, we were still going to catch the Canelo fight.
Absolutely.
As far as controversy leading up to the fight, you know, all the stuff the promoters do, and even the day of the fight, you know how they're always talking about the double wrapping, you know,
that's gonna happen.
The PED situation.
Don't get it
twisted. Not only that, I mean, with Canelo, you know, the clenbuterol situation, they'll bring that up, which that was something else that, you know, I saw in the second Gennady fight. You know, they compared his weigh-in physique, you know, from the first fight, the second fight, because, you know, he popped in between those fights, and it was the same. It was the same physique. Like, are these drug tests are they like moron tests where you just have to not cycle off this date that they give you months ahead? I don't know how that process worked, but I feel like it's a lot less stringent in boxing than it is in, you know, MMA, and specifically in the UFC, since they're partnered with USADA. So I don't know how that works as far as how much that'll play into it. I'm sure that they'll always bring that up, but if they do bring that up, you remind them that Billy Joe also popped for PEDs in the past. He's actually got fights canceled for a lot of other heinous things, but I won't get into that. But like I said, it's always, like Gennady says, big drama show leading up to the fight. They're going to do it, and it's whatever. I get it. You got to sell pay-per-views, or well, I guess it's not pay-per-views anymore. You got to sell the viewership. You got to sell the tickets. It is what it is. I can't wait to see it. But that's our takes on the fight. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And, you know, give us your thoughts. How do you think the fight's going to go down? What do you think about all the controversy? Go ahead and, you know, give us your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, if you like our type of content, we'd really appreciate if you liked and subscribed. you subscribe and also hit the notification bell, you'll be notified whenever we post any type of videos. On top of that, we have our 2 social media accounts on the bottom. We have an IG and Twitter. If you follow us on there, I'm constantly active on Twitter, constantly, almost every single day I'm on there. If you DM me a question or, hey, what do you feel about this? Let me know. And I know Alec is on top of the IG game, so we'll probably be on top of that. If you want to join us on Twitter, I'll be live tweeting the fight, giving my thoughts of what's going on. And, also talking about, there's some really good undercard fights that are going to be happening. So we'll be talking about that on Twitter. And then don't miss our next big video. Obviously next week is UFC 262. I know we've had some unfortunate drop-offs from that fight as far as the Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards coming off of that card. But it's moving to the next card, 263. But it's still going to be an awesome card. We're going to cover it. And it's going to be in Texas as well. It's going to be in Houston, full crowd. I can't wait to do that. Appreciate you guys watching, and take it easy. Bye, guys.